Welcome to Redbeard Radio. I'm Brian Keith, and today we are talking with Tyler Garns. Once again, you heard him back in 2020, episode 29 on While Your Small Business Flounders When You Try to Grow, and episode 52 on how to not destroy your marriage and not screw up your kids while still growing your business. Tyler, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Brian. Good to be here with you.
Now, I have had a problem with my sailboat, which is I have a sailboat that I want to get in the water. It was poorly managed by the previous owners. It's a 1982 little fiberglass swing keel McGregor, for anyone who knows what that means. But what it means for our conversation is it's sort of falling apart and it's not that well built. And so for each individual thing, like reseating a cleat, which is taking your cleat off, adding some fiberglass, some gel coat, re-gluing it, everything else, there's always the question of, should I do this thing myself and learn how to do it from scratch? Or should I hire someone else to do it? Or should I ignore it and hope it doesn't break important enough that I actually notice it, like I'm out in the water and then a gust of wind comes up and then the thing just breaks and bad things happen. And this is applicable to so much of our business where we have to figure out, should I learn how to do it? Or should I hire someone else? Or should I ignore it and hope the problem goes away? Can you give us your perspective, Tyler?
That's a great opening question. So my perspective, Brian, is that you should always learn the fundamentals. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to learn the details and you don't have to become the expert at it, but you need to learn the fundamentals so that you know, one, am I getting ripped off when someone gives me a quote? If I know what's involved, I know all the pieces, all the steps, maybe I'm not the expert at all the things, but at least I know the process, I know what goes into it, then I know roughly what I should be charged for that thing. Also, number two is I know if they're doing it right, or I know if they're doing it the way I want them to do it, and they're not just doing a quick, cheap job just to collect my money and get on their way. So I want to be able to evaluate those two things. And so I think you always have to learn the fundamentals. And then after that, it's a matter of where's your budget? If you've got the budget to pay someone and have the expert do it, great. If you don't, then you're just going to end up doing it yourself.
I can confirm that you should not hire me to repair your sailboat.
You got that one figured out, huh?
I'm doing an adequate job, and adequate means the boat is comfortable enough to take out on day sails or multi-day trips while sleeping on shore. But there's all kinds of things where I get a sense of, oh, here's how to do it right. Even doing bottom paint, where for folks who aren't boaters, the bottoms of boats that live in water have to have a special kind of paint that is very poisonous to keep algae from growing. I'm simplifying a little bit. And this boat did not have bottom paint when I got it. So part of this off season was add bottom paint. I started off with hopes, Tyler. I thought I'm going to go sand it down, all the paint that's on there, both the previous random Rust-Oleum paint from Home Depot that the previous owner used, but even the original bottom paint from 1982. And I had all my PPE on. I had my big old gas mask thing on, my gloves and everything on. And I sanded down like a 2 foot by 6 inch piece just to go see how much work is this really. Now it's a 22-foot boat, which is very small compared to big sailboats. But when you have a rotary sander in your hand or a belt sander in your hand, 22 feet turns out to be really long.
That's a lot of area to cover.
Yeah, it took me like an hour or 2 hours to sand down through all the coats of paint this like 2 foot by 6 inch piece.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, based on what I now know, and I got down to the original paint and the original fiberglass. Okay, and I knew what good looks like is doing this to the entire boat, making and fixing any imperfections in the hull, and then repainting it properly, which is either a boatyard thing or building a scaffolding. Mm-hmm. And I thought, is this really worth doing it? But then I talked to a friend, and this friend owns an oyster company where he is an oyster farmer. And he said, why are you sanding off your paint? We just paint our boats each year. We just scrape off everything, very rough job, and then we just paint over it. And I thought, well, this guy is oyster boats. He works for a living, right? My boats, this is a pleasure thing. But if it's good enough for him just to paint over, why am I borrowing all this time, dozens of hours, and also exposing myself potentially to this poisonous paint I'm scraping off? If it's good enough for him, why am I doing this? And that led me to, I should do what the professionals do. I should not try to make this up as I go along. I should copy my friend. And so I did. And guess what, Tyler? The job's done. And it's not done perfectly, and it would be done better if I did the perfect level version, that if you had a really nice sailboat that you kept really nice, you would take it to a boatyard and they would do what I was planning on doing. I didn't do that. I did the good enough version, and you know what? It's probably going to be good enough.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's great. I love it. That's a conversation we have in business a lot, right? Most business owners are perfectionists and they will hesitate or delay launching something because it's just not perfect yet. And I just look at the opportunity that's lost during all that time,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's what you're pointing to here is, hey, look, you're going to have a great summer now because the boat's ready. And if you had gone the long route of maybe sanding the whole thing yourself, maybe it wouldn't have even gotten done this summer, right? So you got it done and you're going to enjoy the summer. So great.
That hurts extra hard, Tyler, because I got the boat on the water 0 times last summer.
Yeah.
Because after I fixed the things that must be fixed, like the standing rigging, one of the tires almost fell off the trailer. So I learned from scratch how to repair sailboat trailer axles. And that was great. And then something else broke catastrophic. So I never got the boat a single time on the water. So what you said hurts extra hard. It has to get on the water. I have to go use this thing. I have to stop working on the boat. I have to start enjoying the boat, which feels an awful lot like working in the business building stuff versus running the business and actually having the vision. So let's move to you talking about you have this project, this way that people can go get better at handing off things. Maybe that aren't mission critical, or maybe that you already know how to do, but they take such a long time. It's just not worth it to do it yourself. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I can't remember if we talked about this in one of your previous episodes, but one of the things I like to do with business owners that work with us is sit down and figure out how much of your time are you spending doing what I call $10 an hour work versus $100 an hour work, $1,000 an hour work, $10,000 an hour work, right? And anything that's $10 an hour work or $100 an hour work, you should be having someone else do for sure. So you could be focused on the $1,000 to $10,000 an hour work. And then, of course, it's a daily struggle to figure out how do I spend more time doing the $10,000 an hour work. And again, oftentimes that comes down to budget and resources and how big you are, and can you hire someone to do that other work. But that should be constantly in every business owner's mind, I think.
It is a bigger problem for me than it's ever been. I bought my mom's company a year and a half ago, and I built up a team to go do all kinds of stuff that I used to do as she was a client of mine. And as recently as this morning, we launched a big update to our training site, and the site crashed. And then we just did a backup. We tried for half an hour to fix it live, didn't work, went to the backup crashed.
Hmm.
And another person on the team is on hold with tech support trying to figure out what's going on here. And I thought, okay, I could try to be involved myself, but what would I be doing? I'd be hanging out with tech support. But then my staffer mentions it's some memory issue maybe. And so I look at that, oh, right, I need to go double the memory because we have all these staging sites because we're trying to do all this stuff all at once. And that ended up allowing us to get the site back up, the old version. So by being a little bit involved and knowing, if that's the problem, the solution is this. It's not waiting on tech support. It's I need to double the memory right now.
Yeah.
And the site's back up in 2 minutes because my staffer knew what he was doing, except for the memory part. He had not encountered that problem before, and I had. So in that case, that was probably $10,000 an hour, 5 minutes of my life. But I'm trying to stay away from that and stay elevated in a way to say, what's the big thing? And with that company at this moment, it's marketing qualified leads. I have a sales team. I have a training team. They're great. Getting those leads to the sales team that have raised their hand in some way, that's the most important thing. That is our bottleneck. So trying to stay out of these technical things when I'm a technical guy, that's what I did. That's what I built. But how do I have the discipline to keep that distance and say, I trust the people I've hired and trained. I trust them to do a good job. I will be available and I'll monitor a little bit, but I'm mostly going to stay focused in my case on those marketing qualified leads. How do we develop that judgment, Tyler?
That is probably the golden question, right? For every entrepreneur. It's something that I think you just have to focus on and work on developing that. It's not something that's going to come naturally to most people. And so you just have to be focused on it. You have to be willing to let the team fail. That's the hard part, right? Is you can do it in a way that it won't fail because you've done it. You're experienced and you knew about the memory thing, right? It's like your history and your experience is super valuable, but it can also get in the way of growth because if you dip back into all of that, then you're neglecting what you already identified as your key responsibility right now. And so you have to be willing to let the team fail. And that's really, really hard for most of us. In our team, one of the things I always tell people is, look, it's a very, very similar situation to what you just described, but I've likely encountered everything you're going to encounter. And so what I want you guys to do, and our team's all technical people as well. And we hire people that I call tinkerers, people who love tinkering with technology. They get great joy and satisfaction out of figuring things out. That's one of the great traits that I hire for. Well, the problem is they'll often spend hours and hours, maybe even days trying to figure something out that I figured out 5 years ago. And so we have this conversation often where it's like, look, I love that you guys will figure stuff out. I want you to first, if you're not sure how to do something though, first check with me and see if I've figured that out before, if I have an answer for it. If so, great, I'll facilitate that. If not, then have at it. Go go figure it out. I try and leverage my experience and my expertise that way. Like, I'm out of the picture. I'm not there. But if you have a question, come and ask me and I'll help you. And then from there, you're on your own again. So it's a balancing act. I wouldn't say I've perfected it at all. It's a struggle every day.
I am not even close to trying for perfection. I am still in the, because I also do COO work for various clients where I'm running teams there, and I'm in the trying to get a handle on what it means to be really good at reading someone's issues in Slack and saying, ask Bob, or maybe Sally can handle that, or Deborah, take the lead on this project.
Yep.
And just understanding who has the talents that other folks might not be aware of on the team. Like, oh, actually, Bob did this 5 years ago. Bob's the person, ask him. And that is a really different skill set than building stuff. I started Redbeard Consulting in 2012, and I started by building stuff. And that's what I've done for most of that time since 2012, is gotten pretty good at implementation and building. And now it's more the training and the communication. And even the case this morning, this big thing breaks and me saying to the team, hey, great job. Here's what we learned. And even things like, oh, it went live and it broke. Okay, we have half an hour to fix it. If we don't fix it within half an hour, we're reverting back to the backup. Mm-hmm. And having that kind of guidelines so that the team can feel like they don't have to make that decision. That decision's already been made. They just have to do the best they can with the time they have. And it's a really different skill set to try to manage a team. I feel like I'm back to when I was first working in Campaign Builder and Keep and trying to understand how things work. Oh, that's how a date timer works. Like, at the beginning, I'm back to the beginning and just starting from scratch. I want to hear from you, though, Tyler, about your project, the factory, and what's going on with that.
Yeah, so we created the factory, I guess it's been about 3 years ago now, which just blows my mind. Actually, no, it's 4 years ago, even crazier.
Pre-pandemic?
Yeah, it was before the pandemic that we launched it. So that's just mind blowing. But we've been an agency in the Keep space for over 10 years. And one of the things we realized over the years is that we're really, really good at the technical stuff. We're not quite as good as a team anyways. We're not quite as good at the copy and some of the creative pieces. And so we decided to shift away from being an agency and become more of a platform as a service. And so we created the factory, which basically is a software platform where customers can log in and they can submit requests for us to build stuff inside of Keep. And it's a guided process. They don't have to just come up with it on their own. It guides them through the whole process. And that just took off. It went really, really well. And there's a lot of people who have gotten great value out of that process. And in the course of being an agency, we had built a team overseas that does most of our technical implementation. And so our costs are pretty low. And so we're able to offer this implementation service through the factory at very, very affordable rates for lots of small businesses. And so that's one of the things that's been really, really attractive to people. And so we've modified that and grown it and tweaked it and all that over the last 4 years. And then just a couple of months ago, Keep approached us and they wanted to acquire the factory. And so we did that deal. And now the factory is part of Keep. It's one of the services that they offer to all their customers.
That's great. But here's the question. What should I outsource to the factory versus do myself versus train someone myself how to do it? How can I judge?
Great question. So again, it kind of goes back to our conversation before. Let's figure out, do I have budget to hire it out? If I don't, then decision's made. We got to do it. Either I have to do it or someone who already works for me has to do it. There's really no way around that. I don't ever encourage people to, pay for a service like that in hopes that it might generate enough money to then cover the cost of it. I just don't think that's a wise way of going about it. I think you got to have the budget and then go hire the service. So first thing is budget. Second thing is skill set. Like, do we have the skill set internally to do this? And then third thing is it worth our time doing it, right? So sometimes the skill set exists and it's like, okay, yeah, that skill set exists and it happens to exist in my executive admin and it's totally worth having her do the work. She's great at it and she enjoys it and it's worth paying her for that all day long. Great, keep it in-house. But if that skill set exists in the business owner, then we run into the same conflict you're having, where it's like, okay, if the business owner is doing the work and has learned it, and this is often the case with Keep. People start with Keep, they grow their business, they're doing it all themselves, they grow big enough to where they have a team and they have budget and whatever, but they're still stuck in the weeds of that stuff. And that prevents you from focusing on bigger growth ideas and bigger growth strategies in your business. And so at that point, that's where I would say, okay, if you doing the Keep work or any implementation work, any kind of, really this is kind of, let's just call it $100 an hour type work. If you're doing that kind of work, it's holding you back from doing the $10,000 an hour work. So that's where you need to decide, all right, I'm going to just hire this out because I need to focus on the other stuff. Again, as long as the budget's there.
That question of what is the actual opportunity cost? And really, it's also there's this fear. So we're at the stage with Limiters Online Training where we have the Keep stuff, which the team, like the founder and myself, have built that out since 2012. And now we have a new guy on the team who's taking the lead on a lot of that. We sold this new program and we need to take our normal systems and customize them for this new thing we're offering as a one-time thing for this one client. And on the one hand, the people have always built it in the past, being the founder and the office manager, they could go do it again. But I want our new tech guy to understand things. And so what I'm doing is I have a map and I say, okay, this time we're doing this customization, which we do rarely, like once every year or two. I want the new guy to be involved while still the old people building it. But then next time I want the new guy to be taking the lead while the other people observe and advise. And trying to figure out how to do that, it's nerve-wracking because what if the thing takes longer than it's expected? What if it doesn't get done on time? We already know what works, which is the current people do it the way they always have done it in all the tempo they already do it. How do people get over that fear and bet on letting someone else do the work and that will be a good use of their energy?
Yeah, it's always going to be a frustrating process, particularly when you have someone new that enters the picture and they need to get trained and you need to develop trust in them, right? So, because it's so much easier and faster for you to just do it yourself. And now you're like, okay, well, I need you to do it, but you don't know how. So I've got to train you. So now I'm going to spend time training you and then watching you fail and watching you mess it up. And then I'm fixing it. And then eventually we'll get it right. You just have to be willing to go through that. That's just what it takes, right? That's leadership.
The alternative is to remain at the limits of what you yourself can control as the founder, which that's not bad. That's just a choice.
Yep.
And one of the things we're experiencing with the company that I bought is the founder wanted to have a company where she understood everything. She had a few people helping her. I want to build a 7-figure company that trains lenders across the whole United States at a scale much greater than what the founder could handle. Much, much greater. I want to have thousands and tens of thousands of students per year. Much bigger scale, and take the message that the founder created and expand it to where it's helping millions of end users. And you can't get there without finding that help.
So are you two able to align your vision? Sounds like the founder's vision is a little different than yours.
Oh, it's beautiful. So my mom's company, and I've worked in the company since I was about 5 years old, licking stamps for flyers. So I've been involved in the company for quite a while. Her vision was for her being in charge. What she's now finding is that she loves being our lead trainer.
Got it.
She's our lead trainer. She trains our credit analysis training team, which is as specific and technical a topic as it sounds like. And then she advises our sales team. She helps train our sales team because that's what she was doing for 4 years. And then she advises the technical team and takes the lead on some of those things. But more and more, it's okay, how can we go? If she does it this time, we have someone else shadowing her, how can she just advise next time? So she's loving working at the company because a lot of things, as she says, are not her department. And she loves that. She didn't know that she would love it. Turns out she loves it because she loves what she does, the training side, and she's really good at it. And she loves what she does on the sales call side, and she's really good at it, like best in the nation good at it. So she's, by allowing her son to buy her company, she's getting to do that which she is amazing at, and the things which she's anything less than excellent at, increasingly, she's not even touching the decisions, which is making everyone really happy.
Well, kudos to her for having the humility to make that shift. Because I think a lot of businesses die because business owners won't make that shift. They want to remain in charge and they don't come to the realization that if I remain in charge and I'm not a visionary, I'm not a leader, whatever it is that they're lacking, then the company dies. But if they have the humility to say, you know what, I'm really good at this thing that I've been doing since the beginning that I founded the company on, we'll let someone else lead and I'll just keep doing that thing. That requires some great humility, but I think it's where great success can happen as well.
Yeah, it's enshrining the legacy that in our case, we teach lenders how to make better loans all across the United States. There's no other company exactly like us. Mostly people learn, loan officers and credit analysts mostly get on the job training, and it's mostly haphazard, where it's depending on who your mentor is once you get hired at a bank or a credit union, that determines your quality of education. Mostly, not all institutions, but many of them. What we're doing is we help those institutions systematize how they train things, and we take care of that 100 level training. So the bank spends all their time on the 200 level and above. They're really important exactly how that bank does stuff. And so it's this calling, it's this mission that when we do it well, helps stabilize the economy, helps people get the homes that they should be able to get loans for, helps businesses grow by helping support the right business loans for the right businesses. It's this sacred calling. And we've figured out how to go take it out of the founder's hands and make sure it does not die with her because her body of work is incredible. But up until she sold the company, it was still inside her head.
Mm-hmm.
And she was updating it all the time, and only she could teach it because she's amazing at this thing. And now we have a training team that has two, about to be three people on it. We have a 3-person sales team. Like we're just expanding like crazy. So
That's awesome.
I want to hear from you, Tyler, for people who are interested in the factory. How do they go learn more about that to go get their Keep implementation handled for them?
That's a really good question. Keep just put up a page for the factory, and I'm trying to remember what the URL is, but it is keep.com/the-factory.
Oh, yeah? I'm going to go pull it up. This sounds fun.
Yeah, go ahead and pull it up. Keep.com/the-factory. So all the details are there. Most people aren't just going to go sign up for it right out of the gates. You probably want to talk to someone, so you can request a consultation on that page and talk to someone at Keep who can tell you all about it and make sure it's a good fit for you. And yeah, that's where you'll get all the info.
I love it. I'm just glancing through the details. That's just beautiful. Well, Tyler, thank you for being on the show. Thanks for sharing your insights on how to decide when to do things yourself versus hiring it out. I feel like this is going to be my challenge for the next decade is to try to get my head wrapped around leading teams at this level. And by then, I'll probably, I don't know, be leading a 7 or 8 figure company, and I'll have entirely new things to keep me up at night.
I think it'll be a continued challenge even at that phase. You've probably heard Clayton Mask, CEO, Keep say that leadership is an exercise in relinquishing control. And that's something that he refers to often. Just every step you move up as you grow the company, you're relinquishing more and more and more and more control. So it's a constant effort.
Well, that guy's a wise guy. Well, Tyler, thank you for being on the show. Where can folks follow you if they like how you think and they want to be following you on social media?
Yeah, just at Tyler Garns everywhere.
Wonderful. Okay, Tyler. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.